Cool beans. Good afternoon. My name is John Young, and I am the vice chair of the Historic Conservation Board. I would like to take a minute to remind everyone about the rules of this proceeding. This proceeding is at all times governed by the rules adopted by the board on September 26, 2011, last amended March 9th, 2020. A copy of the rules of procedures is available for review in the back of the room and online. All those planning to testify today, which does not include those solely making arguments such as attorneys, should please stand now and take an oath administered by the board's attorney. And speaking today, go ahead and stand.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you. As such, I lost my spot. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. As such, the board reserves the right to deliberate in private. The Ohio rules of evidence do not apply to this hearing. However, professional rules of conduct do apply, and candor to the tribunal is required. The board members are citizen volunteers and are not paid for their service. They are treated as public officials under Ohio law. Any attempt to influence them, including but not limited to bribery, intimidation, retaliation, which may include contacting their employer in an attempt to exert influence, is punishable as a crime. All should be aware that this meeting is being recorded. Therefore, before you begin your comments, please state your name and your address for the record. With that said, let's go ahead and proceed with the first item. Doug.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Item 1 is an application for a certificate of appropriateness for 43 to 45 East Clifton Avenue. This is an existing, it's actually 2 existing buildings on adjacent lots. You can see the current conditions of the buildings here. They have been vacant for many years, and the applicant is proposing to renovate the properties for residential use. As part of the request, the applicant is planning some additions to the structure. Primarily, these 2 buildings will be combined to work as a single larger multifamily building. And with that combination of the 2 buildings, there is a plan for a stair tower addition that is within the courtyard of the U-shaped building. It will be behind the existing street frontage in that courtyard area. It will extend up slightly taller than the existing buildings, primarily because there is also a rooftop deck addition that is proposed on the building on the right on the plan. The other alterations include raising the existing roof line of this building. It currently has a shed roof sloping towards the courtyard. The plan is to raise the level of the interior wall to create a full story under that shed roof, creating a flat roof on that rear portion of the roof line with a roof deck on top. So that roof deck would be accessed from that new stair tower, which would like to extend up slightly further than the existing buildings. So that stair tower and the roof deck are both going to be screened from the front elevation, so they will not be visible. You can see the sightline drawings here indicating that no portion of that rear roof tower or that rear stair tower or the roof deck will be visible when viewed from Clifton Avenue. So you can see on the elevation drawing, this is the proposed stair tower. It is proposed to be CMU material that will be clad in insulation, and that will be covered with a stucco type material that will have the will be sort of etched to resemble a stone construction. Staff did initially push back somewhat on the stucco cladding just because it is not a material that is generally approved in historic districts. The applicant indicated that with the construction type of the stair tower and the insulation that they were using, the stucco material would be the best to finish that coverage of the stair tower, and at that point did propose the lines in the stucco to resemble stone rather than being a smooth stuccoed surface. So considering the fact that this stair tower will not be visible from East Clifton Avenue, which is the primary street frontage. Staff is generally acceptable of the stucco material on this stair tower. This tower will also involve the removal of the former decks that were on this side of the building. It was a covered deck that had recently been rebuilt. It may have been a historic configuration, but the actual materials that were present currently are recent replacements. Again, as those decks are not visible from the street at any angle, staff is not terribly concerned with the removal of that material, especially since it is recent reconstructions. And on the elevation, you can also see the original roof line sloped from the top, the outer wall here sloping down to the top of this level. So you can see where that will be raised to provide that flat space for the roof deck, which will be screened by the side walls of the building. There are some minor alterations to existing window openings, primarily changing some doors to window openings on the interior of this courtyard with the removal of those decks, and then also restoring some of the original openings that had been altered in the past. As far as the treatments that will be primarily visible from the street, mainly that includes replacement storefronts and replacement windows in the building. The applicant is still examining specific window models, so that hasn't been officially decided yet. It does look like the models that are being considered are approvable based on previous board recommendations. So staff would recommend that final window selection be submitted to the Urban Conservator's office prior to the issuance of building permits to make sure that is an appropriate window. As far as the storefronts are concerned, the existing storefronts are in pretty bad shape because this has been vacant and boarded for many years. So the applicant is proposing to replace the existing configuration. Any historic material that remains, which is primarily some of the metal storefront materials that divided the bays, that will be retained where it remains, and new storefront systems installed inside that. The door opening will be shifted from one of the central bays to the bay on the far right. And again, that is primarily due to the new configuration of these two buildings, which will operate as a single building. The other doors the other openings that are existing for the doors on the first floor are proposed to be infilled, but the applicant is proposing a storefront type system that will resemble a historic door opening, so that those opening sizes remain the same and the view from the street will appear as a door entry to retain that historic configuration. And then finally, on the frieze at the top of the building on the left, there are solid panels in every other opening with a vent, sort of a lattice-like vent enclosure in the other openings. The applicant is proposing to fill the attic space with insulation and is not intended to be used. So he does intend to replace those vents with solid panels that will match the other existing panels that are on the building. So staff does feel that all these proposed alterations and additions do meet the intent of the historic conservation guidelines and do substantially comply. And as such, staff recommends the Historic Conservation Board take the following actions based on plans by Arcanum Architecture dated 1/27/2025. Approve a certificate of appropriateness for 43 to 45 East Clifton Avenue, including any revisions submitted for permit subject to staff review and approval with the following conditions. 1, the specific window series shall be approved by staff prior to the issuance of building permits. And 2, the building permits must be issued within 2 years of the decision date or the COA will expire.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. Would anyone from the applicant or owner have any information to the staff report?
Sure.
You come up and
Here.
over there's fine.
My name is Matthew Evans. I'm the owner and architect at Arcanum Architecture LLC. My address is 7711 Camargo Road, Madeira, Ohio 45243. Give me my phone number too. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
First of all, thanks for having me here today. I've served on commissions and boards before, and I know that it's a big ask for people to do this out of their life. And so thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate that. Pretty much everything was covered. With the help of Doug, we were able to come up with a fairly straightforward design. We really didn't have to do much to this building other than bring it up to a safe living space. It really needs to be improved. The brick and walls stay on the outside. We're going to tuck point all the brick. The windows that we're going to be putting in will be relatively historically accurate. They're going to have brick mold on them. They're going to be wood windows. Ideally, we'd like to use a metal clad historical window. The storefront, like he had mentioned, where there, of course, each one of these buildings at one time had two entrances. You had the entrance for the apartments and you had the entrance to the store that would have been on the first floor. So we're trying to maintain the look of two entrances for each one of those units, even though the primary entrance to the building will be, in essence, in the center. And then our staircase structure provides our means of egress for all the apartments. Even though from the street it looks like 3 stories, as you know, with the hillside, this building drops off significantly. So there are apartments in the lower level that are not accessed from the central staircase. They have independent entrances at the lowest level of the structure itself. The building itself is multiple white masonry walls. We're going to maintain that, but for ease of construction and for ease of running mechanics and plumbing, we're building a whole new wall on the inside of that, which will allow us to insulate the wall system, run electric without hogging out the masonry, and other things which are afforded by adding the stud walls to the interior. But overall, the other thing we're doing is with the entrance, and we're going to be working this with the building department. Because it's an historical area, certain parts of the ADA law don't have to be utilized. So right now we're keeping the curb and the entrance to the building elevated the way it is right now with a step going in. It's currently actually doesn't even have a step. It's a very large rise to get into the building. But if the building department asks us, we've talked about how to make it ADA compliant. We would prefer not to. But if we have to for ADA laws, then we're prepared to do that. We just don't see a reason to tear up the floor and everything, but it can be done. There's no elevator in the building. We don't have a requirement for an elevator only because how few apartments there are going to be. All the glass will be low E argon type glass, but we're going to try to go with simulated or true divided light windows where we have the grids on the front. But on the back, we're just going to go with single light sashes. And of course, we're going to try to keep the double hung units. If we run into a position where we need a window for an emergency escape, we'll probably make a casement window that appears to be a double hung with a false mutton that would appear to be a check rail. So we'll give the appearance of a double hung. But if we do need the window for emergency escape, we have to conform with the building code requirements for that. The rooftop terrace will be for use only by the residents. It's a limited space, but we do believe that's a very positive thing to have on buildings. Many buildings in the area of over the Rhine and in this, even on the same street, have rooftop terraces. So we wanted to maintain that. But overall, our goal is to keep the look of the building intact. We are going to fill in a couple openings on the right side of the building. They were small window openings that led to bathrooms, I believe, at one time. They would be non-compliant with the building code because they're right on the property line. There used to be at some point a building adjacent to this that has since been raised. Same with the lot to the left. It also has buildings that have been raised. So we're going to fill those 3 very small openings in with masonry to match the existing. Other than that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant or the staff?
Thank you. Have you priced this out? You're the owner and the architect?
I'm the architect, not the owner. I have a representative from the owner here.
Okay. I was just curious, and I don't know that I'm aware of the latest technology, but creating that artificial limestone look
Yeah.
would be pretty expensive, I would think. I mean,
There was a suggestion.
fall back when you find out what that costs.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I first drew it, we just used a smooth stucco finish.
Right.
Only because,
It's the joints that are labor intensive.
correct.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, I had, one proposal I had was using a product called Nichiha brick siding. Because I can put siding on there that's a cement siding that appears to be brick. I would have no problem doing that.
But what are we approving, I guess? Is this,
Right now, it's this. Only because I have to put foam on the outside of the block for my R value for my staircase.
so Mr. Owen, how do you know that that's what they built?
You mean based on?
Specifically the pattern on the,
That would be something that would be reviewed in the field by the inspector. So, I mean, staff. in
so at that
general-
point, you're already in construction.
Right, yeah. In general, for rear stair towers like this, some other type of cladding, like a fiber cement cladding of some kind would be appropriate as well if that were something that ultimately would like to be switched to. Staff would not recommend the faux brick on that type of material, but something more similar to like a lap siding would be acceptable. So, if there are issues in the field with this type of material, or once the pricing comes back, I would be willing to work with the applicant on an alternate cladding. If that's something the board would like me to have the authority to approve down the line, then that is something that I think we could add as a condition of the approval. So,
And that's, I'm
that material.
trying to help you out.
No, I hear
think the
you.
design's appropriate. I think it's good. I'm afraid that once you're gonna get to a point and you go, well, I can't do that, so.
Well, that might be a call for the owner. I look at it as, every time I look at something like this, I think of all the steps in the process. I'm gonna be laying block up, and with the EFIS type product, I could mechanically or even adhesively adhere the veneer, the foam to it, and then just scribe the joints basically into the foam. If I want to put siding on here, I'm gonna have to go back and put furring strips over everything. And so I don't know, he's gonna price it out, but I appreciate the comment, and if we have to, even if we may end up even looking at masonry. It's not like four sides that I'm gonna be veneering. I'm only gonna be veneering one side of the structure, and then whatever's above the roof line, and that's it.
Like I said, I'm trying to keep you going, and I don't want the board to approve something and then you're unable to deliver on it. And but if we can add a condition that you have the option to provide an alternate approved by the urban conservator or something like that, I don't know.
I'd be fine with the cement lap siding. That's fine. If that's what the board.
Okay?
Yeah, I would be fine with that.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the applicants or staff? Okay. I think we have about 5 people signed up for this item. They're all associated with
They're
your,
with my firm. They won't be speaking. They're just in attendance.
and then we also have a Bernadette Kearney. Are you going to speak on this issue, or is this?
No, there's another property that's gonna be discussed.
Thank you very much.
I'm on it.
All right. Open to board comments or a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Do I have to write that condition in, though?
yeah, I was gonna add it.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I'd like to propose to or move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness for 4345 Clifton, including the comments made by staff, and additionally that they have what do I want to say here? Can you help me out? the leverage,
Would staff would review the materials for the rear?
that staff could approve an alternate
There you go, alternate material.
clad lighting for the external stair at their discretion.
Second.
All right, I'll call the roll on this. Alaska,
Aye.
Ms. Dobbins,
Aye.
Sunderman,
Aye.
and the vice chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much.
Looks like a good deal.
We're looking forward to getting going. Have a wonderful day.
Roger.
Thank you.
Order of business is a nomination, a recommendation for the National Register of Historic Places for 7855 Dawn Road. Before I get to that, Ms. Kearney, you're here for Walnut Street, you said? I believe that has been moved to our next meeting. That's the one at the corner of Liberty and Walnut.
Yeah.
Okay, that was moved to our meeting, our meetings from now.
Okay, we didn't get notice of that. I've got the postcard that says today.
Postcards were mailed out.
Pardon?
Postcards were mailed out.
Okay, do you happen to know the date? I don't wanna.
I can check with you after the meeting.
Just wanted to
Thank
clarify
you.
that. If you
Okay.
move on to our next item. So our next item of business is the National Register of Historic Places recommendation for 7855 Dawn Road, otherwise known as the Hebrew Day School. Mr. Owen, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So this is another National Register recommendation. We've done a few of these lately. Essentially, the Ohio Historic Site Preservation Advisory Board sends us these nominations that are proceeding to, for their review for a National Register listing before moving on to the National Park Service. So because we're a CLG, we have the opportunity to submit comment on any of these nominations. So this nomination is for the Hebrew Hebrew Day School at 7855 Dawn Road. It is a mid-century modern building designed by Benjamin Dunbar, who is a prominent local architect that apprenticed under Frank Lloyd Wright. And he does have several buildings in the area that are already listed, and this application is being recommended for its architecture as an excellent example of organic architecture by a local master architect. So staff does recommend that the board approve the submission of a letter of support to the Ohio Historic Site Preservation Advisory Board for the inclusion of the proposed Hebrew Day School at 7855 Dawn Road.
Does the board have any questions for staff? Anyone else sign up for this? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the recommendation of staff on the historic designation of this project.
Thank you very much. Comments? All right, roll on this. Alaska,
Aye.
Ms. Dobbins,
Aye.
Sunderman,
Aye.
and the vice chair votes aye. Motion passes. Mr. Owen, is there any more business before the board?
That's all we have today.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Sure.
1978 is when I worked for Ben Dunbar.
Wow. That's an interesting looking building, man.